You step into a Korean elevator, you look at the panel, and you realize there's no button for the fourth floor.
Right.
Where the 4 should be, there is just a capital F. Welcome to the story Real Korea.
So our mission today is to uncover how, well, how a really simple trick of language physically altered architecture and daily life in Korea.
Yeah.
We're going to see how it acts as a shortcut to understanding this, just this really fascinating cultural quirk.
Because it's such a unique mystery to walk into, especially for you, the listener, if you're new to Korea.
Exactly.
You know, you walk into a building, you see that F, and at first you might think, oh, maybe it stands for front desk or, I don't know, facilities.
Or a food court.
Right, a food court. But the truth is actually much stranger. And we're going to take our time exploring this today, looking at how mere syllables can, quite literally, shape the concrete and steel of a city.
Yeah, and to understand it, we kind of have to move from that physical button in the elevator to the linguistic root cause, like why an F for 4.
Which is just the English word.
Exactly. It just stands for the English word for.
Yeah.
But why replace the number at all, right?
Yeah, why bench a perfectly good number from the panel?
Well, it really comes down to the mechanics of how architects handle a very specific cultural anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And they generally use 2 different methods.
Okay.
The first is exactly what you just described, which is relabeling.
Right, they just swap the label.
Yeah. You keep the physical floor, you keep all the structural math intact, but you just change the public-facing button to an F.
Okay, let's unpack this. In that first scenario, the floor still physically exists, right? Like as the 4th level.
Oh, absolutely.
You can walk on it. You could, rent a dental office on it. The number itself is just hidden away behind a letter.
Yes.
It feels like a cosmetic fix. But you mentioned a second method. Does it get more extreme than just changing a button?
It does, yeah. The second method is to just skip the floor entirely.
Wow.
So the elevator goes from 3 straight to 5.
That's wild.
And if you take the stairs, you'll see the exact same thing. You walk up from the 3rd floor, you open the fire door, and the sign just says you're on floor 5.
I mean, logically, how does that even work? If you're standing on the street, you can count the windows, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. The building still has a 4th story.
Right, and that's where the collision between, cultural habit and structural reality gets really complicated. Because on the official blueprints filed with the city, it's still designated as the 4th structural level.
Because you can't lie to physics.
Exactly. The engineering codes, the structural load calculations, they still have to account for that mass. But the marketing materials and the interior signage, they all jump to 5.
Which means the 5th floor is technically the 4th physical story.
Yes.
That is fascinating. The architecture is literally bending to accommodate a feeling. But wait, what about emergency services?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Right, because if a fire breaks out on the public 5th floor, which is really the 4th floor, how do paramedics or the fire department navigate that?
Well, building codes usually require, very strict internal systems for emergency responders. So the fire department has the structural blueprints, not the marketing brochures.
That makes sense.
But it does create a layer of friction. Building managers have to make sure dispatch knows exactly how the building is numbered internally versus publicly.
Just to avoid any fatal delays.
Exactly. And all of this architectural gymnastics is caused by one thing, a Sino-Korean homophone.
A word that sounds exactly like another word.
Yes. It's a linguistic pun, essentially, but it carries this massive emotional weight.
Okay.
Because in the Korean language, the Sino-Korean word for the number 4 is pronounced sa.
Sa, got it.
The problem is the word for death is also pronounced sa.
Oh, wow. Okay, I want you, the listener, to imagine this. Let's say you're walking into a hotel here in an English-speaking country.
Right.
And imagine if the English word for 2 sounded exactly like the word tomb.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Or what if the number 8 sounded exactly like the word ache? You would probably feel a bit uneasy checking into, room 228.
Exactly.
You're basically telling someone to go sleep in the tomb-make room.
Right. You can completely see why people would want to avoid that.
It just shapes how you feel. When a number has that much phonetic baggage, it's unsettling.
It really is. And what's crucial to understand here is that it is strictly the shared sound that creates this problem.
Not the written character.
No, not the written Chinese character. The character for the number 4, which historically influenced the vocabulary, is written completely differently from the character for death.
Okay.
Visually, they're totally distinct. 4 is basically a box with 2 strokes inside. but death is drawn entirely differently.
So if you're reading it on a piece of paper, there's no confusion.
None at all.
Nobody reads a building directory and thinks they're literally moving into the death floor.
Right. But when they are spoken aloud, when those characters are put into the air, they converge into that single identical sound. Sasa.
So it's purely an auditory experience.
Completely. When you tell a taxi driver your address, your mouth is making the exact same phonetic shape as it would to say the word for death.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because unlike a specific unlucky number, a phonetic fare like this is contagious.
Contagious is the perfect word for it.
Because if you think about Western superstitions, like the fear of the number 13, which by the way has its own clinical name, triskaidekaphobia,
Right.
we see Western hotels skip the 13th floor all the time. But 13 is just one isolated number.
Yeah, it's just a standalone island. You skip 13, the elevator goes from 12 to 14, and boom, the mathematical anxiety is over.
Exactly. But a fear of the number 4, it casts a much wider net.
Oh, massively.
It knocks out the number 4, sure.
Right.
But if the fear is attached to the sound of the digit itself, you also lose 14, 24, 34.
Yep.
And then what happens when you hit the 40s?
Well, you hit a massive roadblock. The entire block of 40s is infected by this phonetic association.
Because it's 41, 42, 43?
All the way through 49. So if you're building a 50-story high-rise and you strictly adhere to this, you are essentially wiping out 14 different floor numbers from your directory.
That is just a huge gap.
Because that sound, sah, just keeps repeating.
Yeah.
And this systemic fear is actually known as tetraphobia.
Tetra, meaning 4 in Greek.
Right. And we see this phobia hit the absolute hardest in places where mortality is naturally already on the mind.
Places where people are already feeling vulnerable, like hospitals.
Hospitals and funeral halls are the prime examples.
Yes.
These are the buildings that are most likely to erase the 4th floor entirely or use the F.
That makes total sense.
Because if you were going into a hospital for a serious procedure, your anxiety is already peaking. The last thing you want is the automated elevator voice reminding you of mortality.
Right. It's almost a subconscious reminder.
Exactly. So building designers know this and they remove the friction. They're basically designing around human emotion.
It's kind of a form of architectural empathy. They're trying to comfort the people walking through those doors. But it doesn't just stop at buildings, right?
No, it definitely spreads.
Because if it's this pervasive, it has to bleed into other infrastructure.
It absolutely does. A great example of this is Korail, which is Korea's national railway.
Okay.
They were numbering a new class of locomotives. And they assigned them these 4-digit identification numbers, right?
Right.
Sequentially, starting from 4401. But when they reached the locomotives that would have been numbered 4444, they just skipped it.
Wait, they skipped the actual serial number? Like, it went from 44443 straight to 4445.
They completely bypassed it.
That's incredible.
I mean, think about the absurdity of that for a second. You have this massive multi-million-dollar marvel of modern engineering, and it is bowing to a phonetic pun.
Because saying 4444 out loud.
Right. It would sound like chanting the word for death 4 times in a row.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And for an organization tasked with transporting thousands of people safely at high speeds, it's just too much heavy phonetic baggage. No engineer wanted to drive it.
And I'm sure no passenger would want to board it either.
Exactly.
So, for you listening right now, I really want you to consider the economic weight of this.
Yeah.
Because superstitions can feel kind of abstract, right? But if a multi-million-dollar train is getting its serial number fudged, does this actually cost people money?
It does.
Like, does tetraphobia have a real economic impact?
A resounding yes.
Yes.
If you look at the real estate market, it becomes very clear.
Okay, how so?
Well, imagine a real estate agent trying to negotiate the price of an apartment numbered 404.
Right.
The physical value of the property hasn't changed. The square footage, the view, the kitchen, it's all identical to apartment 504.
But the address itself is the problem.
Yes, it acts as a deterrent.
So an apartment numbered 404 can actually sell for less money simply because of how the digits read to a potential buyer.
Exactly. A family looking to invest their life savings might hesitate, especially the older generation. They might worry about the energy or the luck of the space. But here's the thing. Even a young, completely non-superstitious buyer will hesitate, just for pragmatic reasons.
Resale value.
Bingo. They might not care about the number 4, but they know that when they want to sell in 10 years, their buyer pool will be artificially shrunk.
Because the next buyer might care.
Yes.
So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The market rejects it, so you have to drop the asking price just to move the unit.
Exactly. And the bank appraiser has to agree that the unit is worth slightly less because that's what the market dictates.
That is a tangible financial penalty, just for a pun.
And it extends to everyday things, too. People will avoid the number 4 in their license plates.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They'll actively request mobile phone numbers from their carriers that don't have the digit.
Wow.
It just weaves its way into the fabric of mundane daily life.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, tetraphobia isn't just a localized Korean thing, is it?
No, not at all.
Because if it's rooted in Chinese characters, it must be wider than that.
Right. Because it's rooted in the ancient pronunciation of those characters, it maps across the broader East Asian region,
Okay.
any place where those characters historically held influence. So China and Japan share this exact same wordplay and the resulting cultural anxiety.
It's basically a cultural ripple effect.
Exactly.
They borrowed the writing system centuries ago, and they accidentally imported the phobia along with it.
That's a great way to summarize it. In Mandarin Chinese, the word for 4 is pronounced si, and the word for death is pronounced si.
So it's just a slight tonal difference.
Just the tonal inflection, yeah. But the auditory closeness is undeniable, and that phonetic proximity triggers the exact same avoidance behaviors.
So you see missing floors in Beijing, too?
Yes, just like you do in Seoul.
What about Japan? Because the spoken language sounds very different.
The spoken language is different, but they share the history of Chinese characters, which they call kanji.
Right.
So they imported those phonetic associations centuries ago. In Japanese, one of the readings for the number 4 is shi.
Let me guess.
Yep, it's a homophone for their word for death.
Wow.
So the fear transcends modern borders because the root is shared deep in the region's history.
So what does this all mean?
Well,
We have this widespread phenomenon. We have property values dropping for apartment 404. We've got skipped license plates, skipped trains, missing hospital floors.
yeah.
These are widely reported cultural observations, but they aren't precise statistical laws, right?
Right, exactly.
You can't just plug this into a spreadsheet and predict that every building loses X amount of value.
No, and that is a vital distinction to make. We're dealing with culture here, and culture is inherently messy.
It doesn't fit neatly into a data set.
No.
Yeah.
Tetraphobia is this deeply ingrained habit, right?
Yeah.
A collective social agreement. But there is no official government mandate requiring anyone to skip the 4th floor.
The building codes don't care if you're superstitious.
Exactly. The choice to use an F or skip the floor is purely driven by societal preference and market demand.
Which means if market demand shifts, the architecture should theoretically shift with it, right?
Yes.
Are we seeing any pushback today? Like, if this is causing numbering headaches for massive high-rises, at what point does modern capitalism just say enough and override the superstition?
We are actually seeing that shift happen right now.
Really?
Yeah, because culture isn't static. It breathes, it changes over time. Habits can be broken by new generations.
Okay. Yeah.
If you walk into most brand new buildings in Korea today, you know, the glittering skyscrapers, the luxury complexes, you'll notice a distinct change.
Are they putting the number back?
They are. They simply put the 4 button right back on the elevator panel.
So the F is actually disappearing.
It is slowly vanishing, yeah.
Wow.
Older buildings, especially older hospitals and traditional funeral homes, they still firmly hold on to the tradition. They keep the F to comfort people.
Because the emotional weight is heaviest there.
Right. But the newer generation of architects and developers, they're just far less bound by it.
I mean, it makes sense. If you're building a modern, globalized 50-story tower, trying to explain to international investors why 14 different floors are completely missing from the directory,
Right.
it would just be a logistical nightmare.
It is. So the practical desire for just straightforward sequential numbering is slowly overriding the history. The economics of global real estate are basically winning out over a centuries-old pun.
It is so fascinating to think about. That physical letter F on a metal elevator panel is essentially serving as a time capsule.
It really is.
You are literally pressing a button that represents a bridge between an ancient phonetic coincidence and modern urban development.
Exactly. And to summarize it all, a missing floor number in a Korean elevator is really just a fading language pun that got pressed into concrete.
Yeah.
It's a physical monument to a fear of a sound. And it's slowly but surely becoming history.
It's amazing.
It shows us how deeply language intertwines with our environment. The words we speak can literally dictate the blueprints we draw.
But it also shows us how societies evolve past those quirks when practicality demands it. It
Exactly.
really makes you pause and look around at the environment we are constructing right now.
Yeah,
Because as those physical F buttons slowly disappear from elevators, they're taking a tangible piece of cultural history with them.
they are.
And it makes you wonder, for you listening, what new invisible superstitions are we unknowingly building into our modern digital architecture today?
Oh, that's a great question.
Right. Like, what are the blind spots in our own algorithms or apps that future generations will look back on as, charming or maybe perplexing cultural quirks? It's definitely something to think about.
Thanks for listening to The Story Real Korea.